Welcome back to the Roadie Beat Report. My name is Zachary Petrick. I'm joined by Emily Langerone, Peter Gigliotti, Gus Ontario, and Alexa Baker. We've got a great episode today discussing finishing the regular season 6-0 at Meade Stadium, our game reactions and analysis as always, CAA standings and the FCS playoff picture, the tailgate debate, the Bryant breakdown, the significance of the 2024 season. Stay tuned as we're just getting started here on the Roadie Beat Report.
All right, on Saturday, November 16th, Rhode Island Rams bounced back from the loss to Delaware with a thrilling 20-17 comeback at home against the Albany Great Danes. And here's how it happened. We're going to start with the first quarter. The game's opening drive saw the Great Danes push their way down to the red zone, only to settle for a 38-yard field goal, making it 3-0 Albany. After punting from the U-Albany 47, the Rams struggled to stop the Danes' offense as quarterback Van Weber found Alex Drige from a 6-yard touchdown in a 7+ minute scoring drive, making it 10-0 Albany.
In the second quarter, QB Hunter Helms was picked off by eventual CAA Defensive Player of the Week, U-Albany's linebacker Dante Lunan, as the Rams gave up a 25-yard touchdown to wide receiver Seven McGee right before halftime. That made it 17-0 going into the break.
Heading into the third quarter, coming out of halftime, it only took 3 plays for the Rams to finally break through as running back Malik Grant scampered for a 42-yard rushing touchdown, making the score 17-7. U-Albany still leading, of course. In response, the Great Danes drove down to the Rhode Island 8-yard line, but a massive forced fumble from linebacker Sean Pelkinson out of the back of the end zone on what seemed to be a surefire rushing touchdown for U-Albany gave possession back to the Rams, still 17-7, of course. The Great Danes' next drive ended in an interception by cornerback Braden Price, who remains one of the most underrated defensive backs in CAA this season. And the Rams capitalized on possession with another rushing touchdown by Malik Grant, with the extra point being blocked. So 17-13 heading into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and in that fourth quarter, we saw the Rams score their go-ahead touchdown with about 11 to go, right, in the fourth quarter, taking the lead thanks to a third rushing touchdown from Malik Grant, an absolute fantastic day for the Sacred Heart transfer. And that play was set up by a 30-yard reception from Marquise Buchanan. And then tacked on to that was, of course, the horse collar. So Rhode Island gets a big break right there, and they're able to go up 20-17. And then the Great Danes had an opportunity to send this one into overtime, and this, play got a lot of traction on social media. We saw Wesley Neal block the game-tying field goal attempt from the Great Danes. It was a great moment for Rhode Island. Again, another game that ends in a big-time special teams play for Rhode Island. That seems to be the theme of this season. And it's the most regular season wins that Rhode Island has had since 1985. And, if they win in this last weekend against Bryant, it'll be their first time ever winning 10 games in the regular season schedule, and it'll be their first time hitting that 10-win mark since that great 1985 season.
All right, now that we've had some time to reflect and savor in the Rams' 17-0 comeback over the weekend, let's turn to our table for some game reaction and analysis, starting off with some notable team statistics. URI had 35 rush attempts for 123 yards with 3 touchdowns. U-Albany only having 33 attempts for 75 yards. If you do the math, that's 2.3 yards per carry. U-Albany led with 24 first downs, 20 through the pass game, finishing with 354 passing yards on over 50 pass attempts to Rhode Island's 248 passing yards on an astonishing 19.1 yards per completion. Rams outgained 429 to 371, but won with the yards per play at 6.1 compared to U-Albany's 5.1. U-Albany was penalized 12 times for 105 yards compared to Rhode Island's 8 for 48. If you recall that drive we talked about earlier with the horse collar, that whole drive was almost entirely penalties. The Great Danes controlled the time of the possession for most of the game, 35 to 24 minutes about. The Rams had 5 team sacks and held U-Albany to 2 out of 6 for their red zone attempts.
Yeah, and another day, another Malik Grant 100-yard performance on the ground. With Hunter Helms under center this week, the Rhode Island Rams look to rely on their running game, something that they've been able to trust time and time again this season. And Malik Grant had a fantastic game. It was his 5th time this season going over 100 yards, and it was his second 3-touchdown performance of the season. So he's been an absolute impact player from Sacred Heart. And one thing that I noticed is it's now the fourth season in a row that Rhode Island, in their last home game of the season, have featured a running back just have an absolute monster of a game. We've seen Jaden McKenzie do it. We saw Jalen Smith do it. And I'm blanking on the last name.
Marcus DeShields.
Marcus DeShields did it too, right? So Rhode Island it's almost been like a go-to trend for the Rams in this final home game of the season, just being able to rely on such a strong running game. And it wasn't just Grant. I mean, Silas was, a part of the game too, as well as Gabe Sloat, and all their contributions really helped Rhode Island and helped backup quarterback Hunter Helms, mount this 17-point comeback. And, Grant had 37, he's just 37 rushing yards shy of 1,000 yards right now. So he's almost 100% going to hit that mark going to the final game of the season. And right now he's at 10 rushing touchdowns, so he has a chance to probably get pretty close to the Rhode Island single-season record. And his touchdown at halftime provided a ton of energy and juice to the Rhode Island sidelines and helped kickstart the team's performance. Being able to rely on a running back to kind of spark your offense like that has been huge for the Rams this season. They've played a lot of really close games. You could kind of say a lot of ugly games that come down to special teams. So when you're able to rely on your run game to make big plays like that and energize your team, it really makes a big difference. But it wasn't just the running backs this weekend. We also saw the wide receivers have an absolute fantastic day.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Justin. We mentioned that running game was so strong for the Rams, but also the wide receivers, they came up with a lot of big plays when the Rams needed it. Marcus Buchanan, 6 catches, 132 yards over the last 3 games. Marquise has 23 receptions for 388 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he continues to just be a superstar, on the outside. Greg Gaines, the third, flashed some elusiveness after the catch, finishing with 4 catches for 62 yards. Not the biggest day for him, but an important day for the Rams, able to come up with catches when the Rams needed it. Tommy Smith always finds a way to have a crucial catch. This time he turned a simple route, along the sideline into a 30-yard gain on his lone catch of the day, and Sean Harris as well had 2 catches for 24 yards. Harris also had a punt return that he returned for a touchdown and ended up being called off because he had a questionable fair catch call.
Very questionable.
Yeah,
Very
and
questionable.
I think the defense was the heart of this comeback. I'm not going to lie. It was not a super clean first half for the defense. Had me nervous a little bit in the beginning. But they showed up and they showed out in the second half, forcing 3 massive turnovers, a forced fumble by Sean Pelkison, which we touched on earlier, interceptions by DBs Braden Price and Andre DePina Gray, and outside linebacker AJ Pena. He had 2 sacks, giving him his first 10-sack season in his career as a Ram, which is huge. D-line Wesley Neal Jr. finished with 3 tackles, 1 for a loss. 1 sack, a pass breakup, and that game-saving block. An amazing game for him as well. Was able to speak with his family before the game, and they were just so excited to see him, and definitely had a big game for them, and probably was so awesome to see him have an amazing game like that. So that was great. Outside linebacker Sean Pelkison, DB Andre DePina Gray, and linebacker Devin Hightower also combined for another 2 sacks. DB Frederick Malay led the team with 8 total tackles, while D-line Malachi Burby was not too far behind him with 6. Freddie, once again, an amazing game with that club on his hand. Still will never get over it. Shout out to DB Emmanuel Gomes, who had 3 pass breakups in this game as well.
Yeah, the defense came out different. I had the opportunity to talk to Coach Fulming at the halftime, and he said, we got to get locked in. We got to get the juice going. It's going to be a good comeback. Like you said, Justin, Malik Grant, a big part of that, but the defense really turned it on in the second half because, like you said, it was a very uncharacteristic start for them. So it's nice to see them kind of finish out strong and be able to get that victory.
It's always fascinating to me how they're able to kind of level out their performance. It was admittedly not a good day for them in terms of yardage allowed, but yet they make up for it by 5 sacks. Your opponent is 2 for 6 on red zone scoring opportunities. All of these things that you look at the stat sheet and you say, well, how did Rhode Island win when they were, they lost in this category, they lost in that category, they came up short here, and UAlbany did this. Well, it's by making those big turnover plays, those interceptions, those fumble recoveries, those blocked field goals. Time after time this season, this team has shown incredible discipline in those moments. They have shown a knack for coming up clutch. They have shown a knack for being the comeback kids. And I think that's why some people have, I don't want to say labeled the team as a team of destiny, but that's the difference between this year's team and maybe the 22 team or the 21 team. This team just is able to get it done regardless of the circumstances that are in front of them.
Saturday's game was our senior day and salute to service game, so we would like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank those who have served our country and were honored on Saturday's salute to service game. And a special thank you to our Rhodey football seniors who were honored on the field with their families before Saturday's game.
This weekend, the Rams will travel to Smithfield to face off against Bryant, looking to go 2-0 in the state of Rhode Island. And, while you're there, why not do a little bit of tailgating, right? The Rams are looking to clinch the CAA championship, so you might as well celebrate while you're there. So the desk and I decided, what's some great items to bring to a tailgate? We're going to start with Emily.
All right, so a family weekend tradition of mine is, we start tailgating at 9 a.m. We bring a little griddle. My mom makes amazing bacon, egg, and cheeses on the griddle for everybody. I feel like that would be a great tradition to bring back if everybody's tailgating early in the morning and just have a great homemade bacon, egg, and cheese.
It's a great vibe.
Yeah.
Great vibe. Personally, I'm going to bring an activity for everyone to do. I'm thinking cornhole, right? Classic. Can't go wrong with a little bit of cornhole with your boys.
For me, I don't know what it is, but a staple for my family is macaroni salad. And I don't know why. I don't know if everybody's a fan of it, but macaroni salad is a staple for my family at Jets games. And I think it's so good. All right.
Well, you know what? You got to add some extra pepperoni. Then it's really good macaroni salad. But for me, I love chorizo. I love linguiça dogs. But for dessert, apple crisp. Oh my God! Easily the best. Yeah, it's a full dessert. It's the perfect time of year to have it.
Ooh,
not as good. Just the regular apple crisp. Just the regular apple crisp with the apple slices. That is the perfect tailgate for me, along with some cornhole.
Mm-hmm.
I would bring something you can't get up here, unfortunately, which sucks, but Hers chips.
Oh, I've never had
better than Lay's. They're amazing.
I can attest
The
to that.
Hers
Really
honey barbecue
Those are
chips,
good.
fire. Hers chicken and peach chips, fire. Hers wavy chips, the red bag, fire.
What was that
That's
second
my
chip?
choice.
Chicken and Pete's.
Chicken and Pete's.
What is that?
Isn't that like a Philly, Pennsylvania restaurant?
Yeah.
Oh, we're not in Philly.
Well, also, I would bring, if we were talking about chicken and Pete's, I would bring chicken and Pete's crab fries.
Very nice.
That sounds good.
That does sound good.
Well, that's what the desk is going to bring to Smithfield next week. If you're in the area, you might as well pop out as the Rams look, once again, to clinch the CAA title.
On Saturday, the Rams traveled to Smithfield, Rhode Island to face off against a 2-9 Bryant team that is 0-7 in CAA play this season. The Bulldogs are coming off a 22-12 loss at William & Mary in Week 12, wins over Franklin Pierce in Week 2, and an upset at Brown 42-35 in early October are those two victories. Losses to Delaware, New Hampshire, Albany, Monmouth, Richmond, Stony Brook, Maine, and William & Mary. Those are some of the losses for Bryant. This is the first meeting between Rhode Island and Bryant since the Bulldogs joined the CAA this past offseason. The Rams have won the previous 3 meetings by at least 2 possessions against the Bulldogs with an average score of 35 points to 23.
And now we're going to look at some of the team stats for these Bryant Bulldogs on average this season. Bryant is being outscored 36-21, so really similar to that average you just talked about, Zach, of the last 3 games between these two schools. Bryant does give up about 5 yards per carry, and opponents are averaging about 182 yards per game, so this is a really good chance for Malik Grant to add on to his rushing totals this season. The Bulldogs have given up 26 rushing and 26 passing touchdowns, so pretty evenly bad, if you ask me. As a team, they're averaging teams are averaging 250 passing yards per game, so almost 200 rushing yards and 250 passing yards. Pretty atrocious defense for the Bryant Bulldogs in their first season in the CAA. They do have a pretty solid offense, and maybe that's because they're on the field so much given the play of their defense, but they average 3.8 yards per carry, so not a super efficient running game, and they average about 261 passing yards per game. Their passing attack is really what is notable about this Bulldogs team, which plays right into the strength of this Rhode Island defense. On the season, they have totaled 24 passing touchdowns, but they only have 4 rushing touchdowns on the season. We remember that running back from Monmouth has over 20 himself, so really it's just been a bleak season for the Bryant offense. And sure, the one thing that they do really well is turnovers. They don't turn the ball over very much, which, in the case of Rhode Island, they have turned the ball over plenty. So if there was going to be any sort of upset, I think that's kind of the stat you'd see it happen, Rhode Island losing the turnover battle.
You look at that Bryant offense, they've had multiple quarterbacks this year. Jarrett Guest, who started last week, or Brian Meyer. Guest has 14 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions with 242 passing yards per game. Meyer only has 10 passing touchdowns to 6 interceptions with 154 passing yards per game. Kind of similar to what we saw earlier in the season for Rhode Island, where there was 2 separate quarterbacks in the mix there. Guest offers more dual threat capabilities than Meyer, but neither truly are a mobile quarterback.
This team is led on the ground by running back Fabrice Mukendi, who has 426 rushing yards on the season, but also did not play a week ago. Instead, the Bulldogs were led by Dylan Kedzior and Markeel Cockrell, who combined for 116 attempts for 561 rushing yards with an average of about 5. Cockrell is utilized as the change of pace back to Kedzior's larger build at 6'0", 217 pounds. It is a one-man show at receiver behind senior Landon Ruggieri, who has 61 receptions for 991 receiving yards and 14 touchdowns on the season. And Brian possesses this kind of a solid offensive line capable of putting up a fight in the trenches, but not really one that the Rams defensive front can't dominate against, especially with the performance that we've been seeing from our D-line and other defensive players, especially in like the second half of games, for sure.
Yeah, we're at the point in the season where Rhode Island has faced so many challenges, so many great O-lines that a line like Bryant, while they have been serviceable, they've been actually pretty good. It's not anything Rhode Island hasn't seen. And in terms of their wide receiver, Landon, I mean, he's a fantastic talent, and any team in the country would be lucky to have him. But, you know, when you're a one-man show and you have a defense like Rhode Island who features so many talented defensive backs, it really does make it easy for Rhode Island to find a way to bracket him or just simply put two guys on him, two guys that are going to be really talented. So Bryant has some strengths as a football team. Unfortunately for the Bulldogs, they seem to play into the strength of that Rhode Island defense.
All right, we are going to switch things up on the desk a little bit here, and we are going to discuss best campus food. We're going to take a little bit more of a fun route here. So, Alexa, do you want to start us off? What do you think the best food on campus is?
The best food on campus is Caliente. You got to get the pipeline burrito. The people in there are so nice. And I've also actually seen them at a lot of football games this year. They like the whole group of them will come and sit and watch the games. They're awesome.
For me, it's tough. I really enjoy the Subway at the top of campus simply because I'm able to get a cherry Sprite. There's Dunkin' at the Memorial Union, lovely place. And then the Silk Road in Ramsden is also really good, able to get some orange chicken and some really good crab rangoon. And for a really not that expensive price, a lot of protein, it really helps me.
The noodles are good too.
No comment, but I prefer not to get the noodles. I typically go rice, chicken, and then the crab rangoon.
I switch it up sometimes. I'll get the rice and the noodles.
I've never been. I'll have to try it. Oh, wait. Are you talking about the Ramsden near the breakfast area?
Yeah.
Okay, I have had it. Yeah, it's pretty good. For me, personally, I am a Subway guy. I do love Subway. Hang on. I do love Subway. I've always loved Subway. I get the same thing every time I go.
Who doesn't?
The lady there is so nice. She always gives me a free cookie. Shout out to Ann. But I have to go with Caliente. It's too good. It's too good. The same thing, the bowl, steak, 007 tacos, also very elite. If you've never had the 007 tacos, you got to get them.
I'm also going to go Caliente here.
Yes.
You're outnumbered. I also think it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like Subway it's a chain.
No, you're not. You're not.
The Subway here is one of the best Subways I've ever been to. Really nice people. Really great. I love the Coca-Cola freestyle machine. But I think if you're going to say...
That's what it's called, the freestyle
machine. So. But I think if you're going to say, like, on-campus food, like, I got to say Caliente.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode of the Rhody Beat Report. I'm Zach Petrick, alongside me, Emily Lanzarone, Peter Gigliotti, Justin Theriault, and Alexa Baker. Join us next week as we eagerly await what's next for the storied 2024 Rhode Island Rams football team.